Hello Cloud Pedagogians, welcome back to the course. In today's session, we will create a simple relational database which is MySQL for our student directory application. As we have already discussed, Amazon RDS is a service that makes it easier for you to set up, operate and select a relational database. In AWS Console Management, search for RDS and open Amazon RDS dashboard. We are going to create the relational database for our student directory application which can use to store the student data. First of all, we will click Create Database. Here we are going to select the Easy Create option. This gives us the ability to accept the standard best practices for things like backups and highly availability. You could select the standard create if you wanted to have more of a granular control to pick these sorts of features for your database setup. Next, we can scroll down and you will see the different database engines to choose from. There are the common engines out there like MySQL, PostgreSQL, Microsoft SQL or Oracle, and then there is this one, Amazon Aurora. Amazon Aurora is an AWS specific database that was built to take advantage of the scalability and durability of the AWS cloud. Aurora is designed to be drop-in compatible with either MySQL or PostgreSQL. It can be up to 5 times faster than a standard MySQL database, and it can be up to 3 times faster than a standard PostgreSQL database. So if you have some use cases that require large amounts of data to be stored with high availability, durability and low latency for data retrieval time, maybe you could consider using Amazon Aurora over a standard MySQL or PostgreSQL RDS instances. You can also compare this with other enterprise database options as well. In our case, we really only need a very simple database without any high performance or large storage requirements. So I'm going to go ahead and select a standard MySQL instance. Next, we need to choose the database instance size. This database instance is what we call one instance of RDS. You can think of it similar to EC2 instance, and also similar to an EC2 instance is that you can choose the size of your database instance. Since this is just a demo, I'm going to go ahead and select a free tier eligible instance. Now we will go ahead and scroll down and we will give this database a name. We will call this student database, and then we will give the database a password for the admin user that would be used to connect to the database. We will go ahead and just give this a simple password. Then we will scroll down and we are going to accept all of the rest of the defaults which you can see here if you want to review. And then we will click Create Database. You can see the DB instance in the process of booting up. You can see it is in the process of creating status, so that's going to take a couple of minutes to complete. In the meantime, let's talk about high availability in RDS. When you create an RDS DB instance, it gets placed inside a subnet inside of a VPC, which are very similar to an EC2 instance. As you learned in previous sessions, subnets are bound to one availability zone. And as the best practice for production workloads, we recommend that you always replicate your solutions across at least 2 availability zones for high availability. With RDS, one database instance belongs to one subnet inside of one AZ. So that isn't meeting the criteria for best practices, isn't it? Now, before you get worried about managing all of this on your own, you just have to know that you can easily configure RDS to launch a secondary database instance in another subnet in another AZ using an RDS multi-AZ deployment. And RDS will manage all of the data replication between the two instances so that they can stay in sync. The other cool thing about RDS multi-AZ deployments is that it also manages the failover for the instances. One instance is the primary and the other one is the secondary. Basically, your application connects to one endpoint. If the primary instance goes down, the secondary instance gets promoted. So, no code change is required. All the failover happens behind the scenes and is handled by RDS. All you need to do is make sure endpoint which now points to the secondary instance. That's pretty cool if you ask me. Alright, now let's hop back into the console. And you can see that the instance is up and running because the status is now available. Let's open the database. You can see the connection information for database instance includes its endpoint, port, and a valid database user. At this point, you could connect to this database instance using something like MySQL Workbench. Now you could load your database schema onto it ready to go and much simpler than trying to install and manage this all on your own using something like EC2 for example. Using services like RDS makes operating databases significantly more accessible and lowers the operational overhead that comes along with relational database management. Now the database is ready. The next thing we need to do is connect this database to my student directory application. We had originally decided that we would use RDS for the database for our student directory application. But now, after thinking about it more and more, RDS might be not a best fit for our needs, which we are going to be discussed in our next session. So, be tuned and see you soon in my next video. Until then,